We're talking fitting, fairway wood, hybrid, and irons. It's all tonight. Let's do this. Everybody asks me about the hybrid club. How should I buy it? What should it look like? How much loft? All that stuff. Well, you know what? If you want to transform your game, you've got to get the hybrids into your bag. It's time for our transformational tip presented by Morgan Franklin. Now, here's what I want to show you. I've got a 3-iron that I'm hitting right here, and I've got a hybrid next to me right there. I'm going to show you the difference between how these clubs work, and then I want to teach you how to know the right hybrid for you, all right? So, I got a flag out here about 205. I've got my 3-iron right here. We're going to take a little hit, and we're going to see what happens. And what you're going to see is a couple of different things. One, you're going to see this golf ball come off, and this is not my best shot here, but come on over here, Gibbers, and we're going to see what happens. So I hit it about 200 yards is what I hit it. And at 200 yards, my ball speed was about 131. I'm gonna make a note of all this. But I want you to pay attention to a couple of different things. Again, we look at spin rates, we look at launch angles, and we look at apexes. So when I get my apex here, this one has an apex of about 73 feet. I typically want to play this shot at about 90 feet. That's where I'm comfortable. That ball's going to end up landing and being a soft shot. And my launch angle there is about 12 degrees, right? So we come over here. I'm going to just make a couple of notes on what we've got going on with this 3-iron. So my 3-iron right here has, I'm going to just round up, about 200 yards. It's got a ball speed of about 131. It's got a spin of about 3850, and it's got a 73-foot apex with a launch angle of about 12 degrees. Now, we're going to go to the hybrid. And I want you to understand how this works. Now, with the hybrid, what I have is I have a 4 hybrid. I know, you're thinking, well, I thought you would have a 3 hybrid, and you compare a 3-iron to a 3 hybrid. You do not do that. 3 hybrids will go farther than 3 irons. 5 hybrids go farther than 5 irons. So I'm going for similar. I'm going to a 4 hybrid. This has about 23 degrees of loft to it. But what I want you to see is how much different the outcome of this shot is. All right, so set up. Same target, same swing. So now, this shot here, really, really high shot. Look at how softly that ball landed. I need you to appreciate just exactly what's going on here with this 23-degree hybrid. So let's look at some different things. First of all, total distance. That went about 206. My other one's about 200. So that's roughly the same. And I might have mishit that 3-iron a little bit, but it's roughly about 205, okay? So that number right there, perfect for me. Now I look at ball speed, 135 in the ball speed. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's go down to some key numbers now. Spin rates. 4760 on the spin rate on that hybrid. My launch angle on that was 16.4. And my apex, this is the biggest part of this whole thing. My apex went to 115 feet. That is up there. What does that mean? That means when that ball lands, it's going to land softly. Let me write some of this stuff down so we can compare this. My distance, 206. My ball speed, 135. Now, a little bit more solid strike on that. Spin rate, 4760. So my spin rate is way up there. That's what, about 900 RPM? That's about, yeah, it's about 900 RPM. So I'm plus 900. Yeah, I'll take it. How about the apex? 115. What is that one? That's plus about 40 feet. And the launch angle, 16.4. What's that? That's plus about 4.4. What does that add up to? That adds up to a shot that when it lands on the green is going to be incredibly soft. It doesn't go very far. It's such an advantage. Now, why is that an advantage for you? Because when you're hitting a shot that isn't releasing when it lands on the green, you expand greens. And when you expand greens, you make it so that you have a better chance of keeping the ball close to the hole. If I have a hole location in the middle of the green and I land it in the middle of the green, the ball's going to stay in the middle of the green. That's right. If I take the 3-iron and I hit that shot and it releases when it lands, now all of a sudden I have to land it in the front of the green to get it to get back to that hole location. And if I land it in the middle of the green, it tends to go over the green. And when it goes over the green, now I'm chipping downhill. I'm increasing the speed of the green. I'm making the game a lot harder. So what are we doing? We're getting ourselves this hybrid, and I just want to share one other thing with you when I hit this so you see where we have some similarities here. So now this is a little bit of a fade. This is my miss hit. And what you're going to see is everything went up. Apex went up. The launch angle went up. Everything went up. But what you'll also notice is my side spin was less. And when my side spin is less, my ball's closer to where I'm going. Now let me get this 3-iron, and I'm going to explain this to you about what you're doing when you get this, okay? And I have a 3-iron that I carry in my bag, so when I set this all up, I'm going to go right to the 3-iron, and then my hybrid is a 3 hybrid. That's how I go. Now, in your bag, you may go, say, to the 6-iron, and then you start putting in a hybrid. When you put in that next hybrid, put in the 6 hybrid. So you should have 6-iron, 6 hybrid. Or if you go to 5-iron, 5-iron, 5 hybrid, okay? If you go 5-iron and then you go 4 hybrid, you're going to have a big gap, all right? Now, how do you know when you should start putting in the hybrids and taking out the irons? Pay attention to the apex. So when I go in here with this 3-iron and I hit this, and this comes out, what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at my apex. And when my apex on that shot, and that was a better shot for me. That one there flew about 202, had an apex of about 85 feet. So that one was a little bit better. But here's my point. When you're trying to figure this whole thing out, and you need to go get fit for this, you need to understand to transform your game properly, you need to get fit. When you go looking at and hitting these shots, you got to factor in what's happening over here with apex. And you got to start looking at, okay, you know what? That's not as high as I want to get it. Or my spin rate. I look at spin rates and I go, okay, my spin rate right there at 3,800 isn't as good as 4,800. And 4,800 with an apex of, say, 110 feet, that's going to make that descent angle, that's going to make that ball when it lands on the green so much better. So what does this all mean? We got to transform our game. We got to play better. We got to shoot lower scores. What does that mean you got to do? You got to evaluate everything. You got to understand every single club in your bag. What does it do for you? And when you start looking at your golf clubs, if your 5-iron isn't going up into the air and it's releasing out a lot, you need to start thinking about getting a hybrid, because that hybrid club is going to throw the ball up into the air, add a little bit more spin to you, get that golf ball going closer to where you want it to go, and ultimately help you shoot lower scores. That is our transformational tip, and that's presented by Morgan Franklin. We're talking about fitting. We're talking about getting fit for the 3-wood, one of the hardest clubs in the bag to get fit for, and nobody's talking about it. It's time for a grip tip presented by Golf Pride. You got to ask yourself 3 questions when it comes to the 3-wood. Easy to remember, the 3s together here. What are the 3 questions? Well, it's simple. The first one is, can you hit it? In other words, do you have a 3-wood in your bag that you're not hitting? Can you hit the ball? When you hit it, do you have bad feelings about it? Are you struggling with it? You got to ask yourself that question first. Next one, what's it for? In other words, how am I putting my 3-wood into my bag? Am I using this 3-wood as a club that's going to go as far as I possibly can hit it? Or is it filling the gap for me? In other words, am I using this because I want this to go 10 yards farther than my 5-wood, or 10 yards farther than my hybrid, or whatever it is? What are you using the 3-wood for? And finally, where do you hit it? Do you hit it on the tee only? Is it like a second driving club? I've got this in my bag in case my driver's not working out real well. All right? Or, no, I'm hitting this all over the place. I hit it off the fairway. I hit it off the tee. I hit it all over the place. And so I have to have something that's a compromise. Now, I've got 2 3-woods right here. One is a 15-degree TS2, and one is a 16.5-degree TS2. I'm going to show you some numbers here, so I'm going to start with the 16.5. Why would somebody go to a 3-wood that has a little bit more loft to it? Well, one of the reasons why you would do this is if you struggle hitting the 3-wood. If we add a little bit of loft to it, what happens is it makes it a little bit easier for our eye to look at and go, I can get this up into the air. And also, it gives us a little bit more confidence. So I know this is going to get up into the air. Does it go as far as your 3-wood can possibly go? No. But it gives us some confidence. So we look down at that and we see all this loft and go, yeah, I can get this up into the air. This is going to be an easy one for me to hit. And I hit it pretty straight. In other words, when I get a little bit more loft on this club, I tend to hit a shot that goes pretty straight. Now, let's take a little look at what happened with that shot. Well, it flew out about 222 yards, got out to about 230. Wasn't my best ball speed. Spin rate went up to about 4,800. All that stuff is good. And the apex was 85. Let's hit another one and let's see if we get some consistency to that. And one of the things that you're going to notice as you start to get a little bit more loft is you're going to lose some side spin. In other words, the ball's not going to slice a lot or hook a lot. You're going to have a tendency to hit a fairly straight shot, which is one of the reasons why you would go to a little bit more loft. Again, we go back to what do you want out of this club? This was a little bit better shot for me, and now we want to pay attention to some of the things that we're going to see. So come on over here. Again, I hit it about 230 yards. You can see that total distance was 229.5. So I got the same distance out of that, but it got there totally differently. And one of the reasons why it got there differently was my apex. You can see my apex down here at 108 feet. The other one was 85 feet. So even though it was a little bit different, I still got it out to the distance that I wanted to. I carried that a lot farther. It only rolled out about 5 yards. Now, why is that an advantage for me? Well, if I've decided that what I want to do is I want to have a gap with my 3-wood, in other words, let's say I hit my hybrid 215 yards, this goes 225 yards in the air, I'm in good shape. That does exactly what I want it to do. I might not be able to reach the par 5, but when I have a 225 shot, I got a 225 club, and that works for me. What also we'll notice is the spin rate at about 45 or 4,600. That spin rate means it's going to be fairly soft, so when it lands on the green with that apex, it comes down. Now my descent angle is pretty good, and I expand the green. Now, when I come back over here to my 15 degree, now we're going to start to see some very different things take place. We're going to see this golf ball not launch quite as high. We're going to see this ball go a little bit farther. We're going to see the spin rate maybe come down a little bit more. And we should see the distance increase a bit here. So let's see what we get. Okay, very solid shot there for me. So let's take a little look at this, because this is completely different than my 16.5. What I got out of this 15 was I got a golf ball that flew in the air about 240, which is longer than my 230, but look at how much it rolled out. It rolled out to about 256.6, so say 260. But what I got was I got a club that landed and rolled a lot. That's what I want with this 3-wood. This is the one I want all for distance. I'm not concerned about my gap. I'm concerned about distance. I want a little bit more distance. And how did it get there? Well, it got there because it only had 2,700 RPMs of spin. So when it landed on the ground, it took off. That's what I want. Also, the other thing that happened was my apex went to 90 feet. Remember, I told you I want to play about 90. That's where I'm trying to play. So this club works perfectly for me. It goes at the apex that I want. It gets on the ground. It has some release to it and allows me to have a lot of confidence when I get in there. Remember, the 16.5 was flying 225 and then it rolled out to 230. Because the apex was a lot higher, the spin rate was a lot greater. And those two things affect how that golf ball descends into the ground and then how it stays there. Is it close to where it lands? What does that all mean? Well, what it means is this. There are two clubs that you typically ignore when it comes to fitting. One is your putter. You never get fit for that putter. So you just go, you don't even practice your putting. And you don't get fit for your putter. You got to get fit for the putter. And the second is you got to get fit for this 3-wood. And when you get fit for the 3-wood, you basically have to answer these 3 questions. Can you hit it? If you've got a 3-wood in your bag and you're not hitting it, get it out. get something in there that's going to work for you. And that may mean that you need a club that needs a little bit more loft. You may need a club that's a little bit shorter shaft, whatever it is. You've got to make sure that you can hit that 3-wood. You also have to answer the question of, what is it for? Am I using this as a driving club for distance, so I want it to go as far as I can, or am I fitting a gap? And then finally, what is the purpose of this? What are we doing with this? Where am I hitting this? Am I hitting it in the fairway? Am I hitting it off the tee? What are the things that I'm doing with this club? And as you answer those 3 questions, you will find yourself in the right club, and you will understand exactly what you need to do when it comes to hitting your 3-wood and getting the right 3-wood in your bag. And that's our grip tip, presented by Golf Pro. It's time for Proving It, presented by Titleist. And I keep telling you, the ball is here and it's in yellow, which I can't wait for. So what I want to talk to you about today is getting fit for golf clubs. And it's important for you to understand, when you get fit for irons, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in this. I know about the length of the shaft. I know about the weight. I know about lie angles. I know about the flex. I know about all that stuff. We're not going to talk about that. What we're primarily going to talk about is how this club head affects the golf ball. And I know all of it is incorporated together. I get it. But you need to understand how this stuff works. So what we're going to do is set up a little chart for you, give you an idea of what's happening. This is the MB, the muscle back, then cavity back, CB, AP2, AP3. We're going to start with this MB. When we look at this, we're going to look at 5 different areas. The areas that we're looking at is obviously the distance that the ball travels, but we're also going to look at the ball speed, the spin of the ball, the launch of the ball, and the apex of the ball. So we're going to start here with this MB. Now, when we talk about this particular club, what you need to understand is this club head has a center of gravity that's the highest on the head, and also it has the center of gravity that's the closest to the face. Now, what does that do? Well, that should do a couple of different things, but this is typically for a player that is a high club head speed player. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring this golf ball down a little bit. We also can add a little bit more loft. So though this is a 7-iron, it's going to have a different loft than, say, the AP3, and we're going to see completely different results from this golf ball. So let's just start with just an MB 7-iron. So pretty good swing there. Very nice apex. And you can see when that golf ball lands, the descent angle. And what I mean by descent angle is when this ball's coming into the green, how does it respond? Does it roll out or release out? Or does it stay fairly close to where it landed? Now, why would it stay close to where it landed? Well, we're going to look at a bunch of different things. One, we're going to look at the apex of the shot, 102. So that means it really gets up there. We're also going to look at the launch angle. That's at 21 degrees. 21 degrees for this 7-iron. And with that apex of that ball's going to come down. It's going to land fairly softly. Now, the ball flew in the air about 166. It had a ball speed of about 115.5. So pretty good ball speed, pretty good distance that it went. And also, we look at the spin rate, about 6,400. So what we've got to do is we got to make some notes. So let's start with distance. 166. Now, what you also want to pay attention to, and let's go back over here, Gibbsy, because I didn't point out exactly what I wanted. That ball carried 166. It only released about 0.1. What is that? Maybe a couple of feet. In other words, that ball landed and it's pretty much where its pitch mark was, okay? So that's something that we're paying attention to. That total distance there is about 166. The ball speed is 115.5. The spin on that ball is about 6,400. And the launch angle at 21 degrees, which I told you about, and let me do that again because I got to erase that, 21 degrees on that launch, and the apex at 102. Okay? Now, that's my baseline on the MB. So let me get the CB here for you, and we'll give this a shot. Now, we should see pretty similar numbers to this with the CB. So there's a very good strike. Let's go and check what these numbers are, because these numbers are very comparable again. And what we got was a ball speed of about 115. So that ball speed's about 115, 114 and a half, 114 and a half. So just a little bit less. I might have mishit that. Okay, now the distance, 162, and the release about the same. The spin rate there was really high on that. That spin rate was 6,900. And the launch angle on that was a little bit lower, 19.5, with an apex of about 93. So I lost a little bit of trajectory. I lost a little bit of launch. And though I gained some spin on that, what I also noticed is that golf ball released a little bit more, okay? So that's what we're getting with the CB. Now we jump into the AP. Now with the AP, what happens here is the center of gravity of this golf club has now come down a little bit, and it's also moving away from the club face. And when it moves away from the club face, that should also help to get this up into the air a little bit. And the loft on this club is less than what we would see with the MB. But because the center of gravity is back there, this thing should go at least the same distance. So this is a really good strike again, and right about on my number. So let's look at this one now, because this is really interesting. Again, that one there flew about 168, and it only released about a half a yard. So pretty good, right? We're talking about a foot and a half. We also saw the ball speed go up a little bit, and we saw the apex about the same and the launch angle pretty much the same. So we're in pretty good shape here. Let's write this down. Total distance is 168, so I'm a little bit longer with that. We also see the ball speed go up to 117.4. So I increased my ball speed. My spin rate at about 6,600, 6614. Launch angle on that one, 21.4. Hold on, I can make a better 2 than that. So I got 20.4 on that, and my apex was 104. So I hit this a little bit higher, and also I got a little bit more distance. That's what I got with this club. Now, what I also got with this is if I hit this a little bit off the center, the MB, if I don't hit it flush in the center, when I hit it out on the toe, it's not going to quite respond the same way, all right? Now we go to the AP3, and this is where we're going to see a really big change. Now, what happens with the AP3, this is the one, and the combination of what's in here, tungsten and all that other stuff, all of a sudden I've got a bigger head. It's longer from heel to toe. It's also got a little bit more mass, a little bit more tungsten. So what happens with this particular club is there's less loft on that than even the AP2. So when we get into this, what we're going to see happen is this ball's going to have less spin. It's going to have a little bit more distance. The apex may be just a little bit lower, and the launch angle is going to come down. Make sure we get that. Got to have that aim correct. And this one's a little right of where I wanted to hit it, so it probably changed some things just a bit on me. But let's look at what we get. Remember, we talked about the things that were going to happen. I was going to get a little bit lower launch. I was going to get a little bit more distance. I was going to get a little bit faster ball speed, all that stuff. So you can see that carry distance was about 177, but the ball rolled out 2 yards. Why did it roll out 2 yards? Well, now you come down here and you can see the spin rate is at 55, maybe 5,600. So there's less spin. That's not going to prevent the ball from releasing. That's going to let it go. What I also got was I got a little lower launch. Remember, we were at 20, and I think it was 20.4. We got 18.4. So let me put this down on paper here so we understand exactly what's going on as I do my little triple Edie Gourmet right there. So 177 is what I got in my total distance. My ball speed now jumped up to 119.3. My spin rate on that goes to 5,600. Launch angle comes down to the lowest yet, that's 18.4. And the apex is at 96. so I'm a little bit lower. So when we look at all this stuff, what we're seeing is a couple of different things. Noticeably, what we get is we're getting variances in distance, how far the ball is traveling. We're also getting variances in ball speed. Even though these are all 7-irons, they go a different distance. And spin rate is different, so that affects what's going on as that ball gets into the green. Combine that with apex and launch angle, and you have a club that performs differently, and that's what we get. So when I put this up here and we start to look at all this, there's a couple of things that I really want you to understand. As we point out, the difference that the ball travels, if I go from, say, MB or CB into the AP line, I'm going to gain a little bit more distance. When I go into that, I'm also going to gain a little bit more ball speed. And this is the fun part about this. When you start to look at ball speeds in here, this one here is right around 115, and this here averaging about 118. So I'm going to get a little bit more ball speed in that AP line because of the way the club is made. And when you start paying attention to getting fit for a club, you've got to pay attention to a couple of different things. What does it look like? Do I like the way it looks? Is it too long? Is it too short? Where's the center of gravity? All these different things are big factors in the performance of the golf club. So, what do you want to have happen when you're examining the golf club? What do you want in its performance? Do you want something that's going to help you when you're getting off-center strikes? Well, if you do, you're probably in this sort of AP3 line where you're getting a little bit of a bigger head, a little bit lower center of gravity, a little bit of center of gravity away from that club face. And what that allows you to do is knock some loft off. And as you knock loft off, you're going to get a little bit more distance. Now, what do you give up? Well, you're going to give up a little bit of spin. Right here, I gave up between the AP3 and the AP2, I gave up about 1,000 RPMs of spin. What does that mean? That means that ball is going to release a little bit more when it gets onto the green. And now we start factoring in the other combination and getting fit, and that is the type of golf ball that you play. We don't have enough time to get into all that stuff, but here's what you need to understand. First, you need to get fit for golf clubs. It's so important. I cannot emphasize how important this is. Second, don't just go in there with the idea that, you know what, I'm going to get fit for this particular club. You want to check your performance, and you want to understand how this club is going to perform for you so that when you go out to go play, you go, you know what, okay, I'm willing to give up a little bit of release on the green so I can get a little bit more distance. Or I want a little bit higher spin rate. So when I start getting into a little bit higher spin rate, but I also want some forgiveness, I want to get a CB. And that feels a little bit different to me. And I like the way that feels. And I don't care about that so much. And if I go to the AP2, well, I'm going to get a half a club more distance. I'm also going to get that little forgiveness on the misses, which is what I like to play. So when I go play, I'm playing the AP2 right here. And I'm going to hit one for you. When I hit the AP2, this is the club that's for me. I have got the shaft exactly the way I want. I have the length exactly the way I want. The overall weight, the grip size, lie angle, everything is built for me so that when I stand over this club, I'm going to have the greatest feel of success, and I'm going to hit a shot that's going to go more or less around the target that I'm trying to get it to go at. My descent angle is going to be such that the ball lands and stays pretty much where I want it to. So what you can see is that one went about 169. I told you when I hit it the last time it was 168. That's consistency, predictability. My launch angle, right in the number that I want. My apex in the number that I want. My spin rate, right at about 6,300. All those things are essential. So, as you start to go and get fit for golf clubs, which I am telling you is a must, you've got to pay attention to all of it. The length of the shaft, the lie angle, the weight, but you've got to focus on what's going on with the head and how that golf ball is going to respond. And don't forget, the ball that you're playing is essential to this whole makeup, okay? And that's Proving It, presented by Sightlines. We're talking fitting. It's time for a FootJoy fix. So I want to talk to you about the putter. This is the club that you probably never have gotten fit for, and it's the one that you need to get fit for the most. And what I want to enlighten you to are the different things you need to pay attention to. Because most people go, well, I got to have the right length putter, or I got to have a putter head that's built for my style of stroke. I want to take it straight back, straight through. I need to have a face balance putter. That is not so. Yeah, those things are important. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is you got to pay attention to a lot of different things. I'm going to show you a couple little different things because they're going to teach you about aim. Aim is one of the most important things in putting. So when I set up to hit a putt, what I want to be able to do is aim the putter when the putter isn't in motion, and then aim the putter when the putter is in motion. And if I can do both of those things, I'm going to hit a putt that's going to have a chance to go in. So what do I think about when it comes to aim? Well, there's a couple of things. Sight lines. So as I hold this putter up here like this, what you can see is I've got 2 sight lines, I've got 3 dots. And those sight lines, by the way, are in yellow. Let me show you something that will look a little bit different to you. Let's say I take this putter right here. And what you notice about this putter, there are no sight lines on this putter. This putter has no sight lines. And there are many people that can aim a putter without having a sight line. Maybe you're one of those people that you like to have the dot, right? So we have a putter that's got, here's another good one here. You can see this putter has some sight lines, 3 different sight lines, but it also has a dot in there. And that dot helps you get the ball in the center of the putter head. So when we put this putter head down, I can see, hey, you know what? That dot looks like that's in the center of the putter head. Now I can get that thing going. The problem is I might not be able to aim it properly. So I want to also show you some other things too. This is also fun. You can see these 2 putters here have similar sight lines, but they have some different colors. And most importantly, and now I want to shift this camera over here, Gibbers, if you could, and I want you to notice the difference in the necks. Now you can see this one over here has a longer neck before it bends. This has a short neck before it bends. What does that mean? Well, if I just let this putter hang without putting any pressure on it, you can see the putter face points right up to the sky. If I take this similar putter, but with a different neck, and I let it just hang, what you're going to see is that that putter hangs on about a 45-degree angle, something along those lines, but it's not hanging like this. That Phantom 7 was pointing straight up to the sky. This Phantom 8, it hangs on a different angle, just like that. Now, if I took that putter that I showed you before, this one here with the dot on it, and I let that just hang, what you can see is that that toe is pointing right straight down to the ground there, or almost like this. Not quite, but almost like that. What does that mean? That means that putter's going to have a little bit more flow in the toe. And as that starts to happen, there are people that putt great with that. Do not fall victim to the idea that a certain putting stroke is going to require a certain putter. Because what you have to do first is you have to be able to aim it. The other thing you have to be able to do is you have to look at, do I like the way this putter looks? So when I get set up, I go, yeah, I feel like I'm aimed pretty well on this. When I hit that putt has a chance to go in. And as I do these little things, I'm noticing feel, because feel is a really big part of this. So I'm going to go to this other putter. Now this other putter right here, which is a Phantom 12, what you can see if I hold this up down the line, it's got all those sight lines, but it's got a couple of different wings to it. And those wings, because it's almost square, it helps a number of people aim better. There's so many different things that go on in the aiming part. The sight lines, the colors, the neck type, the length. That was a pretty good one. Really solid. A different feel as well. So as we start to go through fitting, what we pay attention to first is, can I aim it when I'm standing still? And then can I aim it when it's in motion? When we start talking about aim, what I would tell you to do is, as you're going to go get fit, make sure you can aim a straight putt, and then a left to right breaking putt, and a right to left breaking putt. What I like to do is, with my students, I like to get about 10 feet away from the hole, which is what I've got here, about 10 feet away from the hole, and then I like to see, can they aim it straight? And can they aim it on the left edge, or can they aim it on the right edge? That's my test. Then I go to a left to right putt. Can they aim it on the left edge? Can they aim it one ball out? And I'm always working on their ability to aim it when it's not in motion. From there, I then start to figure out what putters work for them. And necks have a lot to do with it. So this neck right here is what we call a plumber's neck. Let me get a flow neck for you here, or a goose neck. And what you can see is these two necks are completely different. So as we start to look at this, people will aim these two putters, which are virtually identical. They will aim them completely differently because of the way the neck goes into that putter head. And that plumber's neck tends to put a little bit more offset. That putter head on this one tends to, the leading edge tends to be outside the back edge of the shaft, and this one right here, the leading edge tends to be inside the shaft. And what that does is it puts the putter head farther back from the ball. And so what that allows me to do, quite possibly, is aim that one a little bit better. What does it all mean? What it means is that you can't just go walk up to, you've had a bad putting day. And what you end up doing is going, I need a good putter. You go out to the putting green, you hit a couple of putts with it, and you go, this one's much better. And you might even get lucky, and it might work. And then you might not, and it works for a moment, and then it doesn't work forever, and you take that putt. You've got a collection of putters in your basement. That's what you've got. Raise your hand. Yep. We all, because you didn't get fit. And what I have come to figure out is getting fit is the most important thing with putting. Control the face at address and as the face is in motion. Now, finally, we then get to the length of the putter. We then get to positioning of the eyes. And as I get set up properly and I have my eyes in the right position, now all of a sudden I can see these two sight lines are going exactly where I want them to go. Now, can I maximize it or get it set up right when I'm going through? That's where we get into our drills. That's when we get into our practice. That's when we get into trusting ourselves and going, okay, I am set up properly. And now I hit that putt. And all of a sudden I start to go, you know what? This putter's not for me because I can't square this one properly. But when I go to this one, now all of a sudden, because of whatever, the different neck, the way it works, now all of a sudden this feels much better. And when I hit this putt, hey, looky here, I made it. And so what I need you to understand is the following. You've got to get fit for your putter. And you got to pay attention to a lot of different things. The sight lines, the dots, the neck, the length, the weight, the head type, the moment of inertia, all these different things. The center of gravity, all that stuff. How the ball is rolling, how it's responding, what kind of adjustment. There's a lot that goes on in this. And what I can tell you is that when you get fit properly, you should never have to get fit again. You always want to check. You always want to make sure that the putter I'm using, am I still lining this up properly? Is it ball position that's gotten off? When you get to a point where you can aim this properly, both in a stagnant situation and then in a dynamic situation when the putter's in motion, when you're able to do that, that's when you're going to start to putt a whole lot better, have a whole lot more consistency, and lower your scores. And that is our FootJoy fix.